Hi guys, my name is Victoria Antonelli. I am a breathwork facilitator, an actor, a writer, business owner, all the things, and I apologize in advance if my energy is a little bit low for certain parts of this podcast. It is day 3 without coffee. I love coffee to death, but it does not love me. Maybe I will do a podcast episode on that eventually. However, I do think that my grounded, more calm energy is appropriate for today's topic. We're going to be talking about food, relationship to food, disordered eating, overeating, emotional eating, and what I think is at the root of it all based on my experience, my research, and what I have observed. So I'm going to start with my story. I am Italian American, and I grew up in a family and a culture that was very food oriented. So from a young age, food became my drug of choice for regulating my emotions. There was this constant preoccupation with food. When are we eating? What are we eating? She didn't finish her food. You need to finish your food. You ate too much. I ate too much. I need to stop eating this. I should not have eaten that. And at the same time, this was coupled with an emphasis on exercise and making sure that you don't get fat, commenting on other people's weight loss, weight gain. So I developed this complex where I was so obsessed with food, loving food, needing food to feel okay, but then also feeling so much shame around how much I was eating, always thinking that people were watching what I was eating, judging how I was eating. And I think the shame, along with what was modeled for me, is part of why I started also eating my food really fast. Because if you're feeling shame about something you're doing, chances are you're not going to sit there and let yourself enjoy it. You just want it to be over with and done as soon as possible. And I understand that sometimes we're just really hungry or what we're eating is really good, so we eat fast. Obviously, this is a little bit deeper than that. So something that happens when you are a child and you're always hearing people criticize others, especially your caregivers, they don't even have to be criticizing you. It could be they're criticizing strangers or random people or whoever. That turns into, oh, everyone is criticizing me. Something is wrong with me. This is how everyone else thinks. And this is not something I'm making up. It's been studied. It's a thing in psychology. So somewhere around elementary school, I started to think something is wrong with me. Everyone is judging me. Everyone is criticizing me. I would constantly make my parents take me to the doctors over these imaginary physical issues. For example, I thought my legs were crooked. I thought there was something wrong with my pinky finger. There was too much skin on it. Just weird shit. And this eventually morphed into always wanting to be skinny, which I know is a common thing amongst girls and women because of how society operates, so I'm sure that absolutely had something to do with it as well. And I also want to say none of this was intentionally done by anyone in my family. Everyone has their own programming, their own story, their own blind spots. These are just things that I have deduced as an adult, and I think it's important to share because there are plenty of other people struggling with disordered eating, emotional eating, and I hope I can provide some insight into what could help. Back to elementary school, Victoria. So to counter this feeling like something was always wrong with me, I desperately wanted outside validation. I wanted to be popular. I wanted to be accepted. I wanted boys to like me, which these things are all very normal, but I'm pointing it out because I think it is a very important part of why later in life people are dieting and doing all these things to try to be this perfect person. Because deep down, what are you wanting from that? You're wanting love, you're wanting acceptance, you're wanting validation, you're wanting someone to be like, wow, you look amazing. It's different for everyone, but I would say that's probably what most of us are trying to achieve. So around junior high, I started to get curious about dieting. especially because I always wanted to be a model, but did not have the stereotypical model body back then, and I never will. I guess it's more open now, but this was the 90s, early 2000s, where if you were going to be a model, you had to be rail thin, anorexic, smaller body frame, but also like 5'10". But at this point in time, I was like, how do I make myself look like that while at the same time loving food, stuffing my face whenever I could? I was never fat, but there was always this battle with how much food I truly wanted to eat versus how much I knew would be too much to eat, and that would make me less desirable, less attractive, whatever. We're in high school, there's this preoccupation with my weight. I'm constantly weighing myself, constantly restricting, binging, all that fun stuff. Then we get to college, did my freshman 15, gained all the weight. And then it was this, oh my God, I am not playing sports anymore. I need to get this weight thing under control. And so around that time, I started purging after drinking. So initially, I thought this was because I was sensitive to alcohol. I didn't really drink in high school. I was drinking shitty liquor. I didn't know how to drink properly. But as time went on and I did more work on myself, I realized that yes, those things were probably true. And also, it was definitely an anxiety related behavior and a way for me to control my weight. Because around that same time, I started using laxatives, and I continued to do that into my 20s and into my 30s. And I am still dealing with the ramifications of that today. Fast forward to 2013, I moved to San Diego. I eventually moved to LA to pursue acting in 2016. So obviously acting is a very visual medium, and I am constantly trying to lose weight. I am cutting out gluten, I'm cutting out dairy, I'm doing hypnosis, which the hypnosis, even though it did not help, and the woman who was doing the hypnosis, I guess the hypnotherapist had, in my opinion, a very disordered view of weight loss, that was a pivotal moment because I started to look at the emotions underneath my overeating. Up until that point, I thought it was a discipline thing, a willpower thing, something that I needed to control. And let me tell you, I have done every single diet, fast, cleanse, anything you can think of, I have done it to try and control my overeating. And none of it has worked. Maybe temporarily, but not in the long run. So after years of calorie counting on MyFitnessPal and missing out on so many events, so many interactions, so much fun because I was so stressed and so worried about what I was going to eat, how I was going to eat, if I was going to be able to control myself. After all of that, what I've discovered is the food is not the issue. And yes, of course, eating healthy food, eating whole foods, keeping mostly healthy and whole foods in your house is helpful, but you can overeat those too. That's not stopping the overeating. That's not stopping the binge eating. Do you know how many jars of almond butter I have eaten in 2 sittings? If you want to heal your relationship with food, with your body, if you want to stop overeating, undereating, whatever your disordered eating is, you have to get to the root of why you are doing it in the first place. We hold trauma, we hold emotional blocks in our bodies. And to avoid feeling that pain, that sadness, that anger, whatever it is for you, chances are it's a bunch of different things you are avoiding feeling. We are going to literally stuff it down with food, with alcohol, with drugs, whatever your addiction of choice is. So guess what? Slowly but surely, you have to let yourself feel what you have been avoiding feeling. That is the only way you are going to process it and release it and move forward with your life. Of course, breathwork is a great way to do this, but there's tons of other somatic practices. I'll link different options below that you can use to begin this process. And I get it, this work is not easy. There's a reason why we would rather eat ourselves to death, drink ourselves to death, drug ourselves to death, than feeling our emotions. But oftentimes we do make it more difficult in our heads than it needs to be. Let me ask you, would you rather work with a therapist, a practitioner for a few sessions to process and heal an emotional block, or at least lessen the blow of it, and then move on with your life? Or would you rather live the rest of your life struggling, white-knuckling this issue? And when I say therapist, I am mostly referring to a somatic therapist, which means of the body. Again, I will link that below. Talk therapy is amazing for raising awareness, but when it comes to processing and releasing emotions, that is really in the body, where talk therapy is more focused on the cognitive, focused on the mind. Both are extremely important, and a lot of talk therapists, they are certified in EMDR, they are certified in IFS, internal family systems, and those two modalities are technically somatic practices. They will connect you to your body. And also, if you're thinking, oh yeah, Victoria, I'm sure my issue will be healed in a few sessions, I get it. Sometimes we do need a lot more support than that. And at the same time, you'd be surprised how many people can resolve an issue that they have had, release an emotional block that they have had their entire life in one breathwork session. And I know for a second there, I was grouping together all the addictions, drinking, drugging, eating, but I do want to pay special attention to overeating and food addiction, because with alcohol and drugs, you can completely cut it out and be done with it. Not saying that is easy by any means, but with food, that is not the case. We have to keep eating food. So we have to find a way to manage this addiction while still consuming the thing that we are addicted to. Where I am at now with all of this, I have so many tools to regulate my nervous system. So instead of immediately running to the pantry or the refrigerator when I'm feeling stressed, anxious, sad, whatever emotion, I now can connect to my breath. I meditate. I listen to a hypnosis track. I found hypnosis tracks that I really love. I will link those below. I can also go for a walk. I incorporate movement whenever I can. And I also feed myself when I am hungry. And when I eat, I do my best to eat mindfully. I am not perfect. And a lot of this is also habits. Realizing that I don't have to eat just because I worked out if I'm not hungry. I don't have to eat just because it's this certain time of day. I don't have to eat as a reward because I finished something. It's being aware of these automatic tendencies, these habits, and breaking them. I don't have to finish everything in my plate. I don't have to eat everything that I made. I can save it for later. So when we start to work through the trauma and the emotional blocks, then we can have the space to break these habits. Because like I was saying earlier, if you're not dealing with what's going on underneath, nothing is going to stick. And another huge thing is I look at what I eat, the way I exercise, things like that, as a way to maintain my mental health, as a way to feel strong and healthy, as a way to be able to do all of the activities I want to do, to have the energy to live the life I want to live. And if I end up losing some weight as a byproduct, cool, but that's not my focus. To tie in what I was talking about earlier about wanting to lose weight to be loved, to gain validation, I give that to myself. I love myself. I validate myself. And even with acting, yes, sometimes I'll get in my head about, oh, if I was thinner, I bet I would have booked that role. But you know what? There's going to be a role that is perfect for me. for my size, for how I look, for who I am. I'm not going to try to squish myself into a million different boxes to fit all of these roles, because at the end of the day, if an opportunity is mine, it is mine, and there's nothing I can do to mess it up. So to conclude, everything you need is inside of you. It's not in the pantry. It's not in someone else's opinion. It's inside of you. You already have it. And this work, breath work, other somatic practices, are to bring you back to yourself, to connect you with your authenticity, to peel away the layers of inauthenticity that we all inevitably take on through different life experiences, through traumas, through trying to be what someone else wants us to be, etc. I am sending you love, and until next time.